Hello everyone, welcome to the next podcast in a series of Feminine Principle. I'm sitting here and I could almost not say a word because the feelings are so overwhelmingly beautiful and slow and nurturing, and unfortunately, if you didn't hear anything, you might turn this off. But it is one of the most important things these days to slow down. The world is way too fast and it's way too distorted because of that. So today I'd like to address how to create polarity in yourself. Because if you want to connect on a deep level with people around you, you have to be there first. In a world, there is this stalemate between particularly masculine and feminine, but it is because there is an inner stalemate. So today I want to begin to speak to how to reignite ourselves into a place where we can birth the heart, where we can undergo this exquisite heart opening that is so needed, but it will not work without feelings. Neville Goddard is a great mystic, and he wrote this book called Feeling is the Secret, and I love that title because it is like the key to heaven. How many times we listen to some discussions about, is God real? Is God this? Is God that? And it will never be understood by explanation. It has to be experienced. And because we can't see feelings, we can't see God. But when feeling returns, I'm not saying feeling is God, but I'm saying that it's an ingredient without which God cannot be recognized. We hear about an awakening, awakening of the mind. That's a first step. There comes an awakening. When a mind awakens, it becomes more still, less conflictual, but also it will begin to feel more. Feelings are very slow vibration. Mind, on the other hand, can be very fast. And because these days we are so information hungry, and now we're getting so much more information from all over the world through internet. But really, if we look at the world, it's not looking that good. And so until we begin to drop in, begin to connect to ourselves, our whole self, we're going to have these tribulations. On the subject of feeling, I like to say that feelings are not such a big problem as it's the mind's attitude towards the feelings in us. Mind has this idea even that, we don't want to open up the can of worms in there. when I used to do podcasts with Barry, I used to say, hey, it's not can of worms, it's actually can of pineapple. Because it's golden in there. But right now, it doesn't look that way. However, when we change our mind about feelings, we're going to have a sudden shift. Yeah, because judgments that are layered onto feelings are mostly wrong. I've been doing this series of books called Right Use of Will for a good 30 years now. On and off with Course of Miracles and some, of course, Course of Love and a few other things that really moved parts of me that I didn't know existed. But Right Use of Will showed me an amazing map of feelings. And for a long time, I tried to change my feelings. I tried to control them. I tried to preach to them. But eventually, I realized this problem is not in feelings, but problem is in the mind that has ideas about feelings that it's determined not to be nice to them. So you have a negative feeling come up, unpleasant feeling, and what do? You trying to push them away, trying to control them, you get busy, you turn on something. When I was younger, I play guitar, so when I had big feelings come up, I would go and play guitar for hours just to soothe myself. But eventually I realized that it's got all to do with the mind. The mind changes its attitude towards feelings, becomes more loving and accepting towards them, and particularly understanding, realizing that without feelings there is really no real evolution. Whatever technology we come up with will never replace the will. And when I say will, I'm talking about a part of ourselves that only feels. Often people ask me, why is it called will? And the best answer that I came up with so far is that is the will of God, and it's been given us at the beginning of creation. So if you could look at it like this, like will in this world often associated with inheritance. Somebody writes a will to you. This is very similar actually. In our feeling self are the treasures. Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's not in your head. It's not in your religion. It's not in your beliefs. Right? So where is this kingdom? Well, the kingdom is in this inheritance. I could almost feel tears coming down my cheeks just saying this. Yeah, because that's where the treasure is. And so to be able to use this inheritance, it's called the book is called A Right Use of Will, A right use of this inheritance. How do we actually get to it? It looks like it's still with the lawyers, and we never really get it. So today I'm going to share with you how to undo this barrier that holds us away from this inheritance, natural inheritance. So if you want to get in touch with your feelings, one thing is slow right down. Begin to speak very slowly. But you have to try it for a while and you'll see what it does to you. Of course, your mind that is trained to go 100 miles per hour will rebel, but you know better. If you want to find your inheritance, you can't rush it. The great she cannot be bossed around. Actually, if anything, we bow down to her. Until we have unconditional loving acceptance towards feelings, we're not getting anywhere. So today is going to be all about this, how to meet this part of ourselves that seems like is the dark, horrible, unseen realm that's down there somewhere which we don't want to touch. And I'll show you that if you follow this information or this guidance, same as I used it, it actually works rather beautifully. Also want to tell you that thoughts are positive, they're plus, they're electric. Feelings are negative, minus, and magnetic, right? Now imagine a light bulb, yeah? It needs two poles, it needs two wires, yeah? It needs the plus and the minus, it needs electricity to lit up. Well, guess what? Same thing with the heart. Yeah, it needs your mind, but be present, not static, not going, not racing, but quiet. And you also need this negative, which is the feeling. If you have resistance towards feelings, particularly what we call the negative feelings, within the fact that we are talking about negative part of ourselves, within that is incredible amount of feelings that we have condemned, judged, nailed, right? We've virtually nailed our feelings. That's the whole idea of crucifixion, is we're doing this to ourselves. We nail our feelings. We actually think we nail somebody else who is triggering us. But what we're really doing, we're nailing our feeling, because if somebody's triggering you, what happens? You begin to feel something and you don't want to feel that feeling. However, because feelings are magnetic and they want to release, they draw to you these people to trigger you. If you then condemn them, you virtually nail them to the cross, yeah? But you also nail yourself. And now both of you remain disabled. There's no relationship, there's no love, there's no flow of friendship or flow of love. But same within. See, your mind doesn't have a really good relationship with the darker feelings. However, darker feelings, therefore, don't have a very good relationship with the mind. I also have to make you aware that there are two types of people. Some people are more feeling people, and they don't understand the mind very well. And there are people who are more mindy, and they don't understand their feelings. Now, if you don't understand and have a good relationship with this part of yourself, what you have to do is decide that you want to have a good relationship. Truth is very simple. transformation can be very simple if it's done intelligently, right? So if you want to have a good relationship with someone, then you approach them and you go, hey, you know what? I want to be your friend. I really like you, and it looks like there is something between us. Can we clear it up? Because I really want to be your friend. Now, if you begin to have that approach towards your own feelings, we're going to go somewhere very fast, in a very slow manner. Where to begin is communication. So I'm going to bring up again that story of princess and a frog, right? So imagine your mind is the princess, and she's dealing with this frog. And we all know in that story that eventually the princess kisses the frog turns into a prince. This is exactly the same metaphor what we're going to do now. Yeah? We're not going to kiss it straight away. We're just going to say hello to it. So if you can find a feeling that you find maybe challenging, possibly as soon as I said that you could find one, that will do. And so normally what you do when this feeling comes on, I would say you push it down a little bit. Yeah? Like, going like, oh my God, so good to see you. I just go like, no, not you again. Not right now. So this time we're going to choose a new approach. Yeah. So we begin to talk to it. I put this into this 8 steps. Very simple. So feeling comes up and you go hello. And don't expect a response. Actually, if anything, you might feel a bit startled because this feeling possibly never ever been approached by loving acceptance, or at least an invitation to develop a new friendship. So you just go, hello feeling, I want to be your friend. I have experienced many times major transformation with people with this approach, yeah? Because sometimes it's so easy that the feeling goes like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this for lifetimes. So this might feel a bit ridiculous, like what, out loud you speaking to a feeling and saying hello? But just to break the ice, you say hello. I'm going to use shame for that because that was what I used originally, and it's a feeling many of us can experience in our life. So I just went like, hello shame, I want to be your friend. And I was surprised by shame immediately had a slightly different texture. That feeling was no longer so shocked out. I was actually shocked in a way that I approached it with this loving approach. Loving approach is the key. So you might get a feeling like this feeling got like a bit of acknowledgement or love, yeah, rather than non-acceptance or avoidance. Yeah, avoidance of feelings is a massive addiction. So, and you can maybe spend even like a couple of hours or a couple of days, particularly if you chose a feeling that's a bit more intense. Sometimes just saying hello to it might be fine for a few days even, hey? But you want it to be genuine. You can't just fake it, because guess what? Feelings, you can't fool them. They have this incredible capacity to recognize truth, because they themselves are truth if we can get through this thick layer that we've created by slapping them, rejecting them, attacking them. It's almost like we created this crust around the solar plexus where we go like, oh, feelings, and actually they're no longer feelings, they're just ideas in our mind. But for now, we're just gonna work with that. So step 2 is accepting the feelings' responses to you. Okay, so let's say you said hello, and that feeling is going to have some kind of response to you. You need to pay attention to it. Yeah? And I would say, ask yourself, can I accept this feeling? You need to ask yourself this question. Can I accept this feeling? And look for an honest answer. Now, if this feeling feels amazing, you probably accepted it. But if it's not, I guarantee you, somewhere in there is a little bit of non-acceptance, or a massive non-acceptance, which probably is more correct. And then I'd say, if it's not feeling incredible, I'd say, no, I don't have acceptance for this. This is very important. That you become honest with yourself and realize that you actually have non-acceptance for your feeling self. If you have non-acceptance for a feeling, that feeling cannot evolve. It has no possibility to grow. Yeah, it's like a rejected part of yourself. I mentioned the other day that, people say you gotta love yourself. Well, this is what that love really is. Because who is the I that loves the you that you need to love, yeah? So obviously somewhere it's the you who decides to love the rest of you. And if you really look at it, it's got a lot to do with your feelings. And feelings so far are not accepted thoroughly and profoundly. Otherwise the world would not look the way it does. So finding this acceptance or non-acceptance is very important. If you have acceptance, we move on. If you don't, what you maybe need to look into is whether you can accept this non-acceptance in you. And that might be a bit difficult, but I just leave that with you. Eh? So just checking in again every day. How is that relationship? Is it good or not good? In this, spirituality is like it either is yes or it's no. There is not like, oh yeah, I'm just getting there. No, that means no. When you say yes, your feeling will rejoice, because it will feel the clear and unconditional acceptance toward it. So the third step is more like a strategy where you begin to engage in a conversation with this feeling, and you begin to explain to it, how was your life with this feeling up until now? Yeah, like, hey, shame, I don't particularly like you. You come up in the situations when I least need you. You're not very pleasant feeling, and if you keep going like this, you might actually realize that you have quite adverse reactions to these feelings, that you actually not only don't like them, but you might actually hate them. And that's a really good place to be, when you see it, that actually the mind, the way it is constructed, is an unconditional non-acceptance of feelings. I like to say this again. What we think our feelings are often not our true feelings. They are just ideas in the mind. Particularly if I ask you like how you're feeling and you begin to look up and left and right, you're not actually in your feelings. You can't feel so much and look up. Yeah, that's the mental and the visual world. If you look to the right and left, it's more auditory world, but down, you look down, you will feel more. So I also recommend when you do this that you put your head forward, and some of you might notice that it's not so easy, because when we're used to avoid feelings, we also lock our neck upwards and we virtually cut the link to our feelings. Like sometimes people say like, oh, they can't go below their neck. Yeah, it's all in the head. Really not there. So third step is this explanation. So another understanding that is important to have is that feelings down there, when you get to the real feelings, that's like the intelligence, the profound understanding, the emotional intelligence. It's far beyond the mind, far beyond what mind can ever comprehend. Yeah? Why is that? Well, because the inheritance of God is in this place. Your real self is in this place. It's not in your head. It's not how many spiritual books you read and what you know, what you remember from those books, but what kind of experience on a feeling level you've experienced where feeling takes over. Awakening is when you suddenly awaken into this flow of life that's way more precious than what we think. And it goes so far that there is no way the words can describe these experiences. Revelations of such depth that the mind can never make sense out of it. So now we approach the feelings and we realize that we are actually pushing them down, and our relationship to them is not that good. And that's why they're not so pretty. That's why they're like little froggies, right? And they need this loving acceptance. They actually need the kiss of the princess. Yeah, when the mind finally wakes up to the fact that it is not the seat of power, and that without feeling, it's just going very fast, but absolutely nowhere. In all of time on earth, no progress has been made. Not a real progress. Yeah. It appears a lot is happening, but concerning relationships and relationships between people and countries, it doesn't look very sweet yet. So on that level, we're very much behind. So realizing all this, what do feeling need right now is an apology. This can be hard because the mind is so arrogant. When the mind realizes how little it is and how arrogant it is with its knowledge and with its incredible discoveries, yeah? Because what? Me? Apologizing to this ugly feeling? To a frog? No way. However, this is the key. Yeah, it's like, oh, hey feeling, hey shame. I apologize for nailing you down, for pushing you down, for never wanting to know who you are, for all the things that, and obviously everybody have slightly different relationship to specific feelings, right? We often condemn them, like hate, we condemn. And yet, what do? We condemn it. So what does someone look like if you condemn them? Imagine you have a child, let's say each of these feelings is a little child, and it comes up, comes up shame, and you go slam. Comes terror, slam. Comes anger or annoyance, slam. Comes grief, oh, how can I get rid of this? Right? So what is the child gonna look like with a parent who basically gets rid of it? Doesn't give it any love, any nurturing, any genuine embrace. Doesn't get the kiss. Mm-hmm. So we begin to with the apologies. Say, hey, feeling, I'm sorry. I've never realized that I've been nailing you down to the ground, that I've been getting rid of you. And with that, we not only get rid of our feeling self, which we call the will, but we get rid of this will of God, our own inheritance. And so we can't feel abundant. And we go madly searching, making money, buying things, going to every possible party possible, wearing the best clothes. But at the end of the day, you don't know how to really even just feel good. Like how many of you guys just feel good day in, day out? A simple inheritance of just feeling good. You wake up in the morning, you go like, oh, I feel so good. Comes lunch and you go like, oh, I still feel really good. Comes an evening, oh my God, I had such a good day. I just felt good. Right? And it comes deeper, joy. How about feeling joy for like 3 weeks without being interrupted by some drama? How about feeling these sweet, sweet qualities of the will, the treasures of God-given Garden of Eden? So that's all the Garden of Eden is this place in us that has everything. But what did we do with it? We made it obscured. We darkened it, and it just became a story in a Bible that people are trying to understand. But as we know, everything in the Bible is a story of you. You have all these characters that are in the Bible. They're all sitting in you. You have the Christ in you. You have the Mother Mary in you. And she is that inheritance. She is that virgin feeling where it's going to birth. It's so pure. It will birth the Christ in you. Obviously, as soon as the Christ is born, who comes in? Comes a Herod, which is your ego mind. The mind that's detached from all of this. And what is he going to want to do? Let's kill the child. And just to make sure we get it, we'll kill them all. So the mind is not very loving. Eventually, we actually realize that the mind is quite nasty if it cannot feel. It can make it look very bright. But bright doesn't mean it's loving. So now we got to this apology. And step 5 is like, ask feelings forgiveness. Like, could my feelings, now that I realize that I really crucified them and denied them, ask for genuine forgiveness. Yeah, hey, feeling of shame, can you forgive me for making you this ugly, dark thing that I've been hiding and pretending that I don't even have it? Yeah. And guess what, guys? This feeling self is waiting for eons, for this moment when you finally stop chasing anything outside you. And so are your domestics. Just like your relationship to all your feelings, really. Huh? So what we're really doing, we're just doing that very same thing. We're changing the attitude so the feelings will feel this loving, genuinely loving acceptance to the point that it almost feels like we're about to kiss them. We're so convinced, we so know that they need to be loved before they can flourish. It's been said that you made ego without love, so the ego doesn't love you, right? And with this unloving dictator, we made feelings look even worse. And that's what we did to our kingdom within. Our kingdom looks like it's non-existent. So we begin, and then we go to step 6. And then you simply forgive yourself for denying yourself the kingdom. You're denying this feeling that you've done this for so long. Of course, if you've done all this, this has no meaning to you. But just in case you haven't, I've seen many very advanced spiritual practitioners who were quite convinced that they were in a state of enlightenment as far as nothing emotional began to happen around them. Sitting in a beautiful light, just don't disturb me. You know, go on top of the mountain, nothing bugs you, there you sit, and everything is good. But then you come to the village, and you will attract immediately whatever's unforgiven in you, in your feeling realm. Here they come. You're meditating, and somebody begins to mow the lawn. You know, you're meditating, and your mind is going wild. So there's always something. And why does mind go wild? If it doesn't have a ground, and feelings are mind's ground, it hasn't got foundation. It doesn't have a good ground, so it goes crazy. So one of the fastest way to actually stop the mind is by allowing more feelings, and within minutes you will find yourself very quiet. But it does take a little while until you realize that the feelings are our greatest need right now. And then comes a step 7, in which you release all the judgments involved. So in my case, let's say shame. Say, hey shame, I called you shame, but maybe you are not shame. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're something else. What are you? So I delabel the feeling, I've been calling you rage. Maybe you're not rage. What if rage is not actually rage? What if it's a suppressed Kundalini energy? What if it's suppressed life force? Why is it so powerful, right? Because it's actually a light of God. It's got power. But if we compressed it into a gas bomb, then it's ready to explode. And so it looks full on, it looks ugly. And so we condemn it and decided actually rage is one of the most judged against emotion in the whole creation. And together with hate. So imagine you take one of these, like hate, and then you allow yourself to fully give it a freedom to express everything that you placed in it. So that's one thing that's going to happen when you slowly begin to open up this feeling realm. And I really recommend you don't rush it. A lot of things that have been suppressed in there will come to surface. In that case, what can happen, we go like, oh my God, this is too intense, and we push against it and we basically put the cork back in, and that can stop the whole flow. But now you know better. Now you know that, I can slowly begin to allow everything that was ever suppressed in me find a space to express. The more you do this, which is the step 8, basically saying, make this process your daily routine, like negotiate a new relationship between this part of you and your mind. So step 8 is really going back to step 1 and going like, hello, I want to be your friend. And do this over and over and over, checking in a few times a day. So it's like, hey, how are you? Now, what happened to me, and this was one of the most beautiful moments in my life, was feeling this shame. And I don't know how many days I've been applying this to it. But at some point, I'm going, hello, shame. And I could feel the shame. And suddenly, it was like a beautiful feeling. I was like, how is this possible that I'm feeling this shame and I'm feeling so good? And then it dawned on me that, I transformed this feeling. And suddenly, instead of the frog, there was something else there. And it was beautiful. And in a moment I realized, if I do this with every feeling that I don't particularly like in myself, maybe something unexpected will happen. And yes, my next one was rage, and then my next one was hatred. And there aren't that many real feelings. Like frustration, it's more like an action. Confusion, that's an action. It's not really a feeling. I feel confused. No, you're not. You're doing confusion. But the feelings are more like you feel sad. You feel grief. That's more the real feeling. But you also have to realize that all of these are labels. And as we begin to delabel this labyrinth of feelings that we know inside, we begin to open up the dark clouds and we get through them. And then suddenly there's light. And you realize that the lower you go, the brighter it gets, the more beautiful it gets. And then you will return to the original paradise, which is the kingdom of heaven within you. and it's not so hard if you put your heart to it. It becomes beautiful. You wake up in the morning, you go, hey feelings, how are we today? The feelings will always just show you what's next. You know, it's almost like it's all stored up in order. So one day you will feel this way and one you feel that way. Eventually you will realize that also feelings of joy need the same approach, because I'm telling you that joy can be amazing. Imagine you sit there in a pure joy for hours and you don't let anything disrupt you. Just feeling this, and you just make a decision, hey? Somehow you make decision to be miserable or depressed. What is depression? You're pressing against your own feelings. We don't allow the feelings to be what they are. Yeah? So imagine just sitting there in joy or in peace, yeah? Or in light, spaciousness, elevation, form of elevation. All of these feelings, when we no longer make a prison out of the will begin to have a very different effect on us. Then we realize how precious they are, but also we're going to be able to share them. And this is where it gets very beautiful, and this is what I'm going to talk about next time. Once we establish this inner kingdom, we begin to attract not people who trigger us into hate and rage and fear and shame. We starting to attract people who have the kingdom in them already opened. And that's a whole different chapter of communication with basically that's when you go like, oh, loving your brother as you loving yourself. I have no words. There is no way I can describe what that feels like. But if you're willing and you feel that this is your path, you will find out just simply by going back to these steps. And it does take a little practice, but it has incredible results. So what we did now, so we freed the magnetic, we freed our minus, yeah? So now we have minus coming from below, and we have the plus coming from above. So the mind thought is clear. Because when you're no longer in conflict with your feeling self, your mind gets clarity. And it becomes, instead of static feeling, yeah, jittery feeling, and endless amount of thoughts. There comes a stillness, but it's charged up. It's like a turn on. You're just like, you know, like you're buzzing, yeah. And then your magnetic down the bottom goes like, ooh, hey, there's a prince in a shining armor coming my way. What do? I open up, and so it opens up, and what happens? Your heart will lit up, and you're not going to have just like a little loving moment like we do have. You know, you watch a movie next to me, like, oh my God, right? Your love just turns on through your heart, and it stays on. You become fully aware of your inheritance. And your heart begins to ooze and shine, and one day you will experience it as a birth. You know, this is the real Christmas, yeah? Christmas is coming, so if you start practicing now, you by Christmas, you might have a little baby Jesus opening up in your chest. By then you will know that, you know, not letting Herod nowhere near him, protect him. And your virgin feeling will nurture it, and your loving presence, which is more of that masculine presence, the godlike presence in us, will nurture and grow this child within ourselves. And then we will basically put those little sandals on, and we will walk the same path that Jesus walked. The idea of a God-man on earth. And as you do, you'll begin to get your own reflection. Instead of meeting some religious fanatics, you will meet people with an open heart who will bless you, who will appreciate the exchange that your radiance meeting with their radiance, and the men will meet women with a different presence, and the women will meet the man with a different light, and this stalemate that exists between masculine and feminine will be no more. But without feeling, I think it's getting clear now, without the feminine principle, without the will, this can't be achieved. Doesn't matter how many books you study, doesn't matter how many things you got upstairs, your heart is where your home is. And every living being has one, every living being has a heart. But it cannot be sustained fully without the vibrating will, when the will of God, your inheritance, begins to shine again, where the princess kissed the frog, and instead of frog there is a prince. And do you know what the mind will become aware of? It becomes aware of that it was the frog. And that's the real story of it. But it's all gonna get forgiven and released. And you forgive yourself for making tiny little mistakes, or you miss the mark, instead of shooting straight at the core, we missed it, and we took a detour into hell and learned that that's not very nice. And now it said, let's try again. And this time we're going to bring in the feeling that can guide us. This is the real Virgin Mary that it's going to birth in us and sustain and protect the child, and it will grow. And you'll still come across some little tribulations here and there, but you have now more in you to navigate. You're not going to have in you, instead of God, this unforgiven father, and instead of the Virgin Mary, this unforgiven mother, which is the part of us that feels, and then having this sad little child that constantly needs something, and no matter how much you give it, it's like a black hole. It just sucks in, and it's always unhappy. So if you ever approaching this inner child work, don't spend too much time on a child. spend more time on our parents. And the main parents is the mind, the father, and the feeling, the mother. And when they are in perfect harmony, you watch what this child is going to look like. It's going to open its heart, and it's going to give and give and give endlessly, which will then sustain it in a constant loving awareness, and would elevate your sense of form. So even your physical body will become more ignited, more happy, and playful. Yeah, we want to do things and have fun. And when the music begins to play, we'll move and dance. We'll be happy. And they'll be happy for no apparent reason except that everything is in alignment within. So on that note, thanks for your attention and patience. And we'll continue about the special and a holy relationship in the next podcast. Okay, thank you.